Hello, people. I'm Jaby KOAY, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hi there.
We are trying another podcast review. I heard your concerns, or read them rather, in the comments of Bhavesh Joshi Superhero. I know that a number of you guys didn't appreciate the multiple camera angles. A lot of people liked it, but there was a number of people in the comments that were like, this isn't working for me. It feels less personal. And a couple of other people were like, it feels less personal because you're not acknowledging the camera. You're looking at each other the whole time, so it feels super formal and too professional. And so, yeah, it just didn't work for a lot of people. And it was one of the first instances of trying something that I thought would be super cool and fun for people, and seeing a lot of comments of people hating it, and not feeling horrible about myself and not feeling like I'm dying inside. Yeah, like I saw all the negative comments and I was like, okay, cool. Let me just try to acknowledge this and roll with this and see if I could improve upon, what we've set up, what we started, and make it more, I don't know, accessible for everybody, I guess, is the best way I can phrase it. So, and the other concern that people were, did I already say that I didn't look at the camera enough?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Well, in case I didn't say it, I'm saying it now. We're going to try our best to not just be like this, locked on each other. We're going to try to, in fact, we're just going to look at the camera the whole time. So we're talking about The Lunchbox, starring Irrfan Khan and a lady named
Nimrat Kaur? I don't know how to say it. Kaur?
as well as Nawazuddin Siddiqui. So I actually completely forgot that Nawazuddin Siddiqui was in this movie. I don't even remember seeing him in the original trailer, to be honest, when I saw it with Hope James many months ago, which is odd. I mean, maybe I acknowledged him when I saw the trailer for the first time, but between watching the movie today and doing that trailer reaction, so much time has elapsed that I didn't remember that he was in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly wasn't a lead character, but he had a very strong supporting role.
Right. So just to give you guys a quick rundown in case you haven't seen the film, or you have seen the film but it's been a while, it's basically about Irrfan Khan, who is this government worker who's got a very boring job. He's on the precipice of retiring, and he ends up getting this lunchbox by accident that's actually supposed to go to someone else. And the food is delicious, and he doesn't know what happened. And it came from this lady who's married, and she's in a marriage that's essentially kind of falling apart because her husband doesn't pay attention to her anymore. That's the gist of it. That's basically where it starts off. And if I tell you any more than that, I feel like it'll give too much away. What I can say is that I like the film. I didn't love the film as much as I was really hoping to. Like, I went into this film expecting to love it for some reason. And
Right.
in the first half, I really enjoyed it a lot. And the second half happened, and I'm like, okay, I still like this movie. I just don't love it the way I did when I saw the trailer and the first half of the movie, if that makes any kind of sense.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that's as much as we should say. I mean, before we close out the non-spoiler part, how did you feel about the film?
I really like the movie. I mean, it's a tough one because I don't know if I would give it a 4 or a 5 out of 5. I think I will just split the difference and say 4.5. I think it's a really lovely story. It is, it's slower. It moves at a slower pace, but I didn't mind that because, you really got to know the characters and feel the nuances of the acting and all of that. And I just thought it was a really lovely story, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, so I'm going to move us into the spoiler part of the discussion. If you guys don't want to... I mean, there's not a whole lot to spoil other than how does it end, right? Because the trailer basically shows you what the adventure is. But and the big question is, how does it end? How does...
What happens?
Yeah, what happens? So before we dive into that, this is just a heads up that if you haven't watched the movie, you should watch it before continuing on with this video. So let's go into talking about the film. So I guess for me, it's like I have this kind of love-hate relationship with this movie at this point, because I think that what's going to happen is with time, just like with Memento, I'm going to appreciate it more. And the reason why is because it went in the most unconventional route possible.
Yeah.
This is truly an indie film. When I say indie, I mean independent. I don't mean Indian. It is an Indian indie film, though. Let me start with performances, because that's the standout thing for me.
Yes.
Before we break apart the story. I loved Irrfan Khan's performance. I thought he did a fantastic job. It was very understated. I thought that Nimrat
Kaur.
I thought she did a great job. The supporting cast was good as well.
Yeah, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, like he was a standout for me, even though Irrfan Khan's performance was so incredibly nuanced and understated, and like I bought everything. But I just enjoyed this character that Nawazuddin Siddiqui had created, because he could have been really annoying.
Yeah.
But he was endearing at the same time.
Yes.
And I don't think that's easy to do.
Yeah. I was actually, when I said supporting cast, I wasn't even thinking of him because I consider him one of the leads of the film.
Okay.
But I agree with you. When I say supporting cast, I mean like the mom, I mean like the auntie who's off screen. Like even she was I thought she was actually a very adorable character. Just her response to the situation is almost like I could see her face even though I didn't see her face. And Nawazuddin Siddiqui, I was kind of saving him for last in my mind because he was my favorite character in this film. He was the best actor for me in this film. Like he managed to ride that line of like annoying but not annoying, charming but just like why is he there? Like, he's just so ambitious to the point that it's aggravating, but yet you don't want to stop watching him. You know what I mean? Like he balanced it very well, and this was different from any other performance I've seen him do, especially in recent years. Everything I see him do is dark. It's more of the kind of sinister character, some in the underbelly of society, kind of a gangster type character. And here he's more like he's just trying to make his way in the world. He's just like any one of us who's like, you know, he doesn't come from the best background, and he's just trying his best to move forward and provide for his significant other. Like, it's very understandable.
And what I really loved about it as well was, even though there was all that lightness to the character, and you know he was very eager and charming and innocent in a way, he also had a lot of pain that he kind of.
Are we talking about Nawazuddin?
Yeah, he had pain.
I think they all had pain.
They all had pain, but like I just loved how, like, with the other two characters, they had pain and you knew it.
Sure.
You know, because they were suffering.
Yeah.
Like Irrfan Khan was getting over the loss of his wife and trying to find meaning in his life, and Ela, played by Nimrat Kaur, was, you know, she was in an unhappy marriage. She was feeling neglected. Like, you could see all of that written all over them. But Nawazuddin Siddiqui's character was kind of this like side character who was, you know, just seemed quite positive. Then later on you find out that, you know, he's got some self-confidence issues as well, and he's not accepted by his wife's family. He just kind of underplayed it, which I really appreciated.
I think that everybody, the three main leads, Irrfan, Nimrat, and Nawazuddin, all three of them managed to maintain an understated performance throughout it.
Yes.
To the point that I was kind of shocked. I was like, I don't think I've seen another Indian film where all your leads have that level of an understated performance, where everything is super nuanced. I was very happy with the director's choice of framing for the most part, just the style, where he chose. I think it was a male director, where he chose to move the camera, and gosh, I don't know. Actually, I don't actually know if it was a male director. If you could check that out for me, so I don't offend the director who might watch this review.
Yes, he's a man, Ritesh Batra.
Ritesh. I loved Ritesh's choice for how he directed his actors, where he put the camera, how he staged his actors, even when he chose not to show his actors in the frame. There were certain moments where I didn't agree with what he did. Like, there's a scene where she finds out her dad passed away, and it's like focused on the bathroom, and then she leaves the frame. Like, in theory, I would like that shot. It's different. But I had nothing to focus on other than an empty bathroom, and maybe that was the point of the shot, that it's like, it could be saying it's art.
Yeah.
Art is so arbitrary. It's like, it could be that this is just normal, or it's kind of just plain, and that's just how life is, or it's an empty nothing shot, and that's how life is. Sometimes you feel empty. Like, it's up for so many different directions for interpretation. But that particular shot stood out to me as something I was like, ugh, I wish there was something for me to focus on. Like I would have done things a little different there.
See, I had the exact opposite feeling about that because I was like, oh, I thought that was a really cool shot, purely because I feel like when in real life, when someone breaks down and cries, it's usually a private moment. So in a way, they were giving that character their private moment and you could only hear it. So
Yeah.
you get that kind of fly on the wall feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you still felt it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, even if you heard someone crying their heart out in the next room, like if you heard your neighbor through the wall crying, like having a proper cry, you would feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we talk about anything else, I'd love to talk about the ending of this movie. And the reason why is because I was really hoping these characters were going to meet.
Yes.
And I wanted to see where the film was going to go from there. Because it was almost like You've Got Mail or any number of these other films where you got characters who are writing to each other that are falling in love through written word more than anything else. And it was just like, it was such an indie ending. And when I say indie, again, I mean independent film. It was such an independent film style ending. I'm like, really? Like, the ending was very ambiguous. It was like, you decide. How does it end, audience? What do you think happens? And I'm like, no, director. What's his name? Ritesh. No, Ritesh. You tell me. Tell me something. At least have them look at each other before you cut to black. Gosh, like something, please, Ritesh. And it was just like, she's like, I wrote a letter. I don't know if I'm going to send it to you. I may or may not. Maybe I'll hold on to it and look at it when I'm old, which means he maybe never got the letter. Maybe he shows up there and she's gone. Uh-huh. Or maybe he shows up and she's there right as she's about to like take off with her kid. Or maybe she sends the letter and then he finds her years later. It's like, no. You got, no. Let the question be, does it work out? That's your little top spinning at the end of Inception, okay? Not whether or not, like, at least you saw Leo exit the airport successfully, right?
Right.
So I needed to see them at least see each other. I wanted her to see his face, something, but
well,
like.
Yeah, I mean, initially when that scene happened and then the credits rolled, I was like, that was the ending? What happened?
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. But then I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe that was the message the director wanted to send, that that's life, Sometimes you have an impact on someone's life very briefly, but it's extremely profound. And maybe that's just what it is.
I've had a number of those.
Yeah. Like it's meaningful, but it's not permanent.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I took from it. I didn't think that they met or anything.
It's certainly a bold choice.
Yes.
And I really wondered how Indian audiences took this movie. Because it's so different.
It's almost bleak.
What do you mean almost? It definitely is bleak.
Just because
it's
they
not
don't
just,
meet?
No, it's not just that. It's that throughout the film, they're talking about sad stuff.
Yeah.
Like their letters are constantly basically expressing to each other their loneliness. More than anything, it's about loneliness. Like he doesn't have his wife. She has a husband who she has basically an estranged relationship with.
He's not present.
Yeah. And so it's just, they're basically emphasizing loneliness throughout the film. That is the film. It's a living in the loneliness and you're experiencing this loneliness with them.
It's very interesting as well, this focus on old school, because I remember at one point in the film, I don't know exactly what point now, but a thought crossed my mind, which was, doesn't Irrfan Khan have a smartphone? Couldn't he just research this right now? I noticed that there was this emphasis on they're writing letters. They're not emailing. That's the point that Nawazuddin's character brought up. And then he's watching VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And then the neighbor upstairs has all the movie songs on cassette tapes.
Yeah.
There's this emphasis on like going back to the old and like finding meaning in that maybe.
Very much an indie film type thing. I mean,
analog all the way.
Yeah, it's just this throwback. I mean, it's kind of funny because this film came out years ago, but throwback is the thing right now. Like throwing back to the 80s specifically for some reason with the cassettes or CDs or whatever it might be, analog like you said. It's anyway, CDs are not analog, by the way.
I didn't say CDs.
I said CDs. I messed up. I was correcting myself. Cassettes are analog. CDs are not. I think that in a few days' time, I'll appreciate the ending more. Right now, it's frustrating. It's so frustrating because I think I went into it wanting it to work out.
Yeah. I mean, don't you always? Isn't that the thing though? Especially when you're watching like a romance.
No.
You want it to work out.
Maybe you do because you're a girl, but like for me, I don't mean that in a sexist way. I'm just saying like women.
What movie did you watch where you were like, God, I hope that the main guy and the main girl never get together?
Well, I'm right about to answer your question.
Okay.
Because my thing is usually I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't care if it works out because I don't typically care about romantic films.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even go to watch them because the trailer couldn't even get me to care about the characters. But when I saw the trailer for Lunchbox, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in. I want to see this work out. I want to see these two end up and have a lovely relationship together. And then they don't. Like, oh, it's not like, jeez.
Okay, but I'm curious now. What movie did you see where you were like, I don't want them to end up together?
Well, honestly, I haven't seen that movie just because I typically don't watch romance films. Like if I elect to watch a romance film, I want it to work out. Like I watched You've Got Mail, or I volunteered to watch the one with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
Oh, the
Lake house.
I was like the post box.
The lake house.
The lake house. Yes.
Yeah, like I wanted to watch that one and I loved it. I really wanted it to work out, and it does.
Yay! Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So yeah, I love The Lake House. It's one of my favorite romantic films. That's a secret.
Not anymore.
Not a lot of people know that. That and Silver Linings Playbook. I wanted it to work out. Even what was it? The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn.
I haven't seen that one.
I wanted it to work out, and it doesn't. It's about a relationship that's going through some tough times, and I'm hoping against hope that it works out at the end, and it just doesn't. Like they're like, well, cool. And it was right after she broke up with Brad Pitt, I think, and that's why it ended that way, because I think she was like, no, it has to end this way.
Right.
We're not having the positive ending here. So back to the Lunchbox. Like stylistically, I love the film. Like that all goes to the director and the cinematographer. I like what they did. The acting was superb.
Yeah.
Again, Nawazuddin Siddiqui just killed it in this movie. Like he was. It's one of those things where it's like he is not recognizable from, like, you wouldn't think he is these other characters in these other movies. You know, even from the trailer you saw of what's it called? The
Sacred Games.
Sacred Games.
Yeah.
Like two totally different people.
Very different. Like I so appreciate his acting and the care that goes into his characters, because I really feel that he knows his characters inside and out. Like he knows their backstory. He knows everything about that person. It's so cool. There
were some interesting character choices, like when Irrfan Khan gets upset with Nawazuddin Siddiqui, and he's like, why do the papers smell like vegetables and blah blah blah. In that scene, he rarely looks at him. He's upset and he's looking down the whole time, like this, and it's like, it's such an odd choice, but that's what that character would do.
Yeah.
Like I can believe it. Like he's an older gentleman, and he behaves like, I feel like, the way one of my older relatives might. They don't make eye contact with you and give you the daggers.
Right.
They look down because they're just so frustrated they won't even look at you.
Exactly. They're livid.
Yeah.
I also really appreciated Irrfan Khan's acting. Like he was so nuanced as well. Like my favorite.
I was literally just talking about Irrfan Khan.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That's why I was talking about him.
You're like, and by the way, I appreciate Irrfan Khan.
Yeah. No, because I'm carrying on the conversation.
Okay.
Sorry. Was that really weird?
Just so you know, I like the movie Lunchbox.
Okay. So did I. Are we talking about the same movie? Okay. You're like interrupting my train of thought. Anyway, I appreciated his acting because it was really nuanced. And my favorite scene with him was when Nawazuddin Siddiqui sits down with him for lunch the first time. And he doesn't say anything, but you can just see like in his body language and the breath he takes. And he's just like, God, like, he doesn't say anything, but it like spoke volumes. I like that a lot. His whole thing in that movie was like very few words said.
There was a lot of cool stuff in the film. Like, there was a lot of neat ideas that they were doing that are very subtle, and I feel like most people probably wouldn't catch. For instance, in the first 20 minutes of the movie, your two main characters hardly say anything at all. They're mostly reacting to things happening. I mean, Nimrat does talk. I think she's got even the first lines in the film, but it's mostly her responding to the auntie upstairs. So, yeah, your two main characters, especially Irrfan Khan, don't say a whole lot. It's just kind of like taking you into their world and seeing what it's like just in their daily life, like them being them. It's a very kind of just slice of life movie.
Yes.
And I appreciate that aspect of it. I just wanted it to work out. Give me a little bit of fantasy, Ritesh, please.
The interesting thing as well is the whole, what is it called? Like the premise of them writing letters.
Yeah,
Why are you
I just
smiling?
would have loved it if the movie went off the rails at the end and they were like dancing around a tree or something and went and broke into a musical. Like, I know that would have broken the tone of the movie, but who cares? Like, I just wanted like a little bit of fantasy at the end.
Could this be the one time that Jaby KOAY is actually down with a musical in a movie?
Yeah. What are you talking about? I don't mind the musicals. Zooby doopy.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway, yeah.
No, like the letters thing.
Yeah, what about
I
it?
really liked because you were saying that the characters don't really talk a lot to other people,
Right.
and yet the letters are a great device for letting the characters speak what's on their what's going on in their soul.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so the movie itself was what, like 90 minutes long?
100 and
Just 100 minutes?
I think it's 100 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, so just over an hour and a half, which is not very long, especially by Indian movie standards.
Sure.
But you learn a lot about the characters. And I enjoyed the letters as well because, especially with Irrfan Khan's letters, they were actually very poetic and they really painted beautiful imagery. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I liked it. You know what? I had one issue.
Just one.
Just the one.
Okay, what?
Like, Irrfan Khan kept going on about how old he was.
But he
And
doesn't
I'm
look
like,
that old.
dude, you don't look that old. I can't buy it.
He doesn't look that old. You're right.
That's the one thing. Like, I wish they could have, like, aged him up in looks a little bit more or not pointed that out so much because I was like, I could totally see you getting together with her. Yeah, there's an age difference, but it's not like you're 80 and she's 20.
There's two things. In real life, I think that would be a startling age difference. Number one. Number two is, generally speaking, you will have actors, like even in American films, Tom Cruise's opposite will be 20,
Right.
30 years younger than him. And it's like, in real life, you just kind of don't do that. But in the movies, you see it a lot. And this film was acknowledging that age difference, that age gap, which I thought was cool because I wasn't expecting that to happen. And thirdly, his behavior, his mannerisms were that of someone much older.
Yeah, no, I can't fault his acting
Yeah.
for him not acting like an older man, but
I've met guys who are much older who don't look old. Like, even my neighbor across the way, he's close to his late 40s, I think, and he looks like he's in his 30s. Like, he looks really
Right.
young. And so, just some people, I can believe that he's a lot older than he looks. I did have a thing I didn't like, and I noticed it from nearly the beginning of the movie. I don't know what the deal was, but there was a lot of exterior shots. This is a nitpick that most people wouldn't care about, but I still felt it even while I was watching. It's like I couldn't help myself. I was like, why is that happening? Again, this is a nitpick, okay? So it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of exterior shots where you could see like the sky or even just white, and it was horrendously blown out. It was like grossly blown out. And I'm like, why does it look like that? Was this shot on like a DSLR? And I thought it was shot on a DSLR because it's a lot more limited. So whatever is white kind of it clips a lot more easily in favor of what's darker, or whatever is darker goes black and you can't get that information back in favor of what's brighter. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have things like HDR in our cameras
Right,
now,
okay.
where it can't light for both. right? So what it does is it takes two photos, it lights for the background that's bright and for the foreground, which is dark, and it gets the best of both worlds and gives you an HDR photo. Typically, your DSLRs can't do that on the fly, but they shot this with the Arri Alexa, which has 14 stops of dynamic range. So I'm like, I don't understand why they couldn't make that look better. It was kind of frustrating. And this is a super technical thing that's probably really boring, but it was just like, I don't understand why everyone's white outfits looked so clipped, why the sky looked clipped. It was just kind of gross. But outside of that, like, the colors were nice in the movie. I thought the DP did a great job otherwise. So that was like my one weird gripe besides the ending. In the second half of the film, I was kind of talking about that earlier. I was kind of like, where's this going? Like, are they going to meet or what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Especially in that moment where they almost kind of maybe sort of meet.
I did like the flashback, but I wanted them to meet.
Yeah.
I wanted...
Or at least that maybe she had remembered him. Like, she'd caught him out of the corner of her eye. She'd noticed this older gentleman.
Like Michael Caine looking at Christian Bale at the end of Dark Knight Rises.
Sure. Yeah. But, you know...
wrapping up her newspaper and walking away.
Because he knew exactly who she was, and he had the benefit of being able to watch her and see how beautiful she was and all of that.
Yeah.
I would have maybe liked to have a moment where when she read that letter recounting the story, that it would cross her mind that, oh, maybe it was that guy. Like, she just had a feeling, you know what I mean?
Here's a question for you and for all of you guys. And this may be different in Indian culture, but I know what would happen in American culture for sure. Do you think it's realistic that a guy who's older is having a this romance through letters with this younger woman, sees her and is like, nah, because she's young? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even me, like, I can imagine if I was in my 50s or whatever, and I see a woman who's that young and she's like got feelings for me. Yeah, I think I'll take that Pepsi challenge. I don't think I'd say no to that. Like,
no.
Let's see where this goes. Let's see how far. I mean, the worst that can happen is she'll say no and be like, "Ew, never mind." Like, that's the worst that can happen. Like,
yeah.
So when he decides to go the other way, it's like that was more of a. I feel like that was more of an Indian film commentary than it was a realistic response to the situation.
Maybe.
Because I can see a younger woman being like, ugh, like, you're too old.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but not the other way where guys, you go to the gym, any gym in Los Angeles, and you'll find 80-year-old men hitting on 18-year-old women.
The thing is, though, I think because we live in LA, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, like I know someone who was in a relationship for a very long time with a man who was 20 years her senior.
Yeah.
I even read a joke on this really great Instagram called Overheard LA, where the joke that someone said, "Oh, the check came out to 1969. That's the year my dad was born." And the woman who was paying for it turned to the cashier and was like, "Oh, that's the year my boyfriend was born." Like, that's such an LA thing.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So it could have worked out, Lunchbox.
Yeah, it could have.
Come on, Ritesh.
He would have taken care of her and her child as well, like, without question. He would have just been like, "Let me love you." Sorry.
Just based on what the film is showing us in that window of time, Irrfan Khan hasn't slept with anybody in quite some time. Like, his wife was watching reruns on VHS. Like, who knows how long she's been gone? It's been a while. It's an unspecified period of time. For a guy who is used to being intimate with a woman, a month can be a long time, you know? And so it could have been years. To be able to look at a young woman in her prime who is desperate for intimacy and love and affection and be like, nah. You're too young. I mean, I know it wasn't like that, but like, come on.
I mean, he was thinking of her. He was being considerate, but also I think he was ashamed at himself in a way. Like, I really love the way he described what happened in that moment that made him change his mind, like going back to his bathroom
Shaving. Yeah.
and then realize and being like, what's that smell? It smells like my grandfather. And then realizing that it was him.
Yeah, that was
and
good.
that revelation that like, when did I grow old? Because I think that happens to everyone. Like, I hear my dad saying, you know, I feel like I'm 21 and I look in the mirror, I'm like, who's that old man?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
That happens to
age
everybody.
creeps up on us and
Yeah.
we just don't realize.
That would happen to my dad. In his 40s, he would say, I still feel like I'm 22. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. There was a great moment on the train. This is the last thing I guess I want to talk about because this can keep going up forever. There was a great moment on the train where he's talking to the old guy and he's talking about going to this other city. Mm-hmm. And he sees the old guy's hand on the table. And I don't know exactly what he was thinking. It could have been that, like, maybe that's my future. But I think that for me, projecting onto him, what he was thinking was, I'm not there yet. This is not me yet. I'm not that old yet. Mm-hmm. And that's why he goes back and he goes and maybe tries to pursue her. Even, you know, whether it works out or not is, I guess, irrelevant. But like he tries to go after her because he realizes he's not this dude yet. He's not ready to kick it.
Right.
He's not really ready to kick the bucket.
Right.
So, yeah, there's hope. I think that's the point of the movie, I suppose, is there's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope that he gets her. There's hope that maybe she finds him. There's hope that it works out okay after she leaves her husband because that's a tough road, you know? There's hope.
The only thing is, like, my thought when he was maybe trying to find her was like, good luck finding her in Mumbai, dude. Good luck finding her in the rest of India if you lose her now.
He had her address. He found it through the guys with the lunch boxes.
Right.
So he knew how to get to her home, but he didn't know how to find her if she left her home.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if she left her home, be like, oh, shoot, like, I have to search the whole of India, which has, what, a population of 6 billion people?
No,
or Bhutan?
Bhutan. No, she was going to Bhutan.
Yeah, for
Wasn't
sure. Yeah, she was going to Bhutan.
That's
But,
what
like,
she said, right? So,
yeah, it's a
Bhutan,
smaller country, but still, you're going to search an entire country?
I'm pretty sure if he went to Bhutan, he would have found her.
Being like, so there's this woman, she's a single lady with a little daughter. Her name's Ila.
Look. 1 rupee in India is worth 5 in Bhutan. Okay? So Irrfan Khan's got some money.
He's rolling in the dough.
I looked up the GDP of all... I looked on Wikipedia. I just wanted to see where Bhutan was on the map because I didn't actually know. Ignorant me. And the GDP of Bhutan is $8 billion. Just for context, the GDP of India is $10 trillion. The GDP of the United States is $20 trillion. So the GDP of Bhutan is minuscule. It's tiny. I'm pretty sure that Irrfan Khan could roll up in there and just start throwing cash. I need this lady, Illa. Who's going to help me find her? You get to have this money. She'll be found. Trust. So
I hope she went to Bhutan.
it all
then.
works out, Ritesh.
Yeah.
It all works out. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts on our thoughts or your thoughts on this arrangement, this podcast arrangement. If hopefully it worked out better.
And your thoughts on the movie, if you've watched it.
Thoughts on the movie as well. And,
if you've come this far, I hope you have.
Yeah, if you agree, disagree, everything. Be honest, be verbose. Blah. Be honest, be verbose. I can't say verbose. Oh my gosh. Be honest, be verbose in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out. Love y'all. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.